Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we have resolution to amend the Claymont Community Redevelopment. Councilman Cartier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. You have a series of documents before you, and I'm going to have the applicant come up and present as well. I'm just going to make some brief overview, introductory remarks. What you have before you is the request by resolution for modifications to the Brookview design guidelines. These are master planning documents that council adopted to guide the development of the really first truly transit-oriented development project on the redeveloping on the site of the former Brookview apartment complex, which is now called Darley Green. Got a little bit of history here. Darley Green was sold out of foreclosure to a new ownership back in June, and in the course of that transfer of ownership, the new owners requested meetings with myself and other important community stakeholders in Claymont to review this proposed block of development that they wanted to bring forward. On this revision to the design standards only applies to block A1, B1, D, and E1. And in a nutshell, the initial design, which was developed by a famous new urbanist design firm, Tortigalis, called for the construction of large-scale parking structures, 2 of them on the site, to accommodate all the parking needs of this very dense transit-oriented development that was intended to be very pedestrian-friendly. And in the course of them looking at the project that they acquired, found that the construction of the parking structures to be prohibitive, and so they brought forward a revision to allow them to carry forward the spirit of this design concept in a revised form that would hopefully be acceptable to members of the community and Newcastle County Council. One of the things I want members of council to be aware of, this design revision has been fully vetted by the Claymont Design Review Advisory Committee, which supervises all land use or issues advisory opinions on all land use proposals in the hometown overlay zone in Claymont. Claymont was one of the first hometown overlay zones, and it remains one of the most vibrant ones in the county. They were able to look this over and approved these design revisions. Essentially what you're looking at, if you look on the first page of site plan that describes these blocks, we have the mixed-use buildings along the Philadelphia Pike, commercial, residential, with the apartment blocks behind. And what you're really looking at here, this area was always going to be developed according to the master plan or the manual design guidelines according to this concept. But what we're proposing here is to reduce the scale and the intensity of the development because of the lack of the parking structures that will not be built. The parking rationale flows at about 1.7 cars per unit, and along the commercial area on the Philadelphia Pike, that's 4 per commercial unit, 4 parking spaces. So with that logic, we were able to accommodate a certain amount of building. The units along the Philadelphia Pike are the mixed use. You go interior to the project, you have the apartment blocks that are 4-story. Then you have additional apartment blocks that are 3-story with internalized parking. All of this will have, bordering fencing to kind of buffer the parking. You'll have a complete set of sidewalks. There's a 1 1/3 acre parcel in the center that we'll revisit later for public use. But what I'm going to do is close my remarks and ask the applicant to come up and review for you in greater detail the type of modifications that they're requesting from council with this resolution. So, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Cartier. For the record, my name is Bill Verdunda. I'm here this afternoon on behalf of the Capano organization, who did take title to the entire property very recently. Also here with me this evening is Christopher Noland. He's a consultant with the Capano organization who's actually been studying the feasibility of constructing the apartments at Darley Green for over 2.5 years. Also with us this afternoon is Gary Seward from Architectural Alliance. They prepared architectural plans and renderings that you're about to see. Quite frankly, I'll be very brief because Councilman Cartier really gave you the essence of why we're here. The concept that the Capano organization has been looking at for over 2 years related to the apartments was to actually be able to construct a project that worked from an economic and practical point of view. As Councilman Cartier pointed out, the original Darley Green plan called for 6-story parking garages, donut hole apartments on the upper blocks shown on the plan in front of you. Not only is that very cost prohibitive, but it also didn't work from the point of view of convenience to all the other square footage for apartments and commercial uses within this portion of Darley Green. I can tell you that this concept has been studied very carefully. There have been many renderings, many renditions of a plan that would work from a practical point of view, which is largely associated with parking access issues. As Councilman Cartier pointed out, the process has included many meetings with community leaders, residents, land use department, and of course, before we came to council, we were required to go to DRAC and get DRAC's approval. That's the Claymont Design Review Advisory Committee. And after several meetings with DRAC, at their public meetings, at the last meeting they voted to approve the suggested plan that we're bringing before council for approval. So at this point, in light of the great presentation given by Councilman Cartier, I don't want to reiterate all the things that he just said. What I'd like to do at this time is bring Christopher Nolan forward and have him walk through the site plan and walk through the concepts that are basically set forth within the resolution that you will be considering. Because in essence, the resolution goes into some great detail regarding what the changes are, but without seeing them by way of a rendering, it's hard to put the pictures together. I mean, unless you actually see them. Applying the words without pictures is pretty useless. As those of you recall who were here in 2006 when the guidelines were passed, it's a very comprehensive set of guidelines that are being amended. But in amending them, the concept and the theme that was desired by the county and the community remain the same. So I'll, Christopher, go ahead and run through the renderings with you to show what the resolution and all those written comments refer to that you were presented with in your package before today's meeting.
So I'm going to make a comment that Bill hasn't made. This is my Vanna White. Thank you, Bill. So,
Okay, excuse me. Could you just state your name for the record, please?
Christopher Noland. So the process with the community started by identifying what they wanted. And so the pictures you're going to see are really what we're committing to do. And then the design guidelines were changed to reflect the pictures that the buildings that we all agreed to. So that's why there's a new resolution, because we've taken it from the approach of what does the community want, and from that we've developed design guidelines. So Gary, you want to? Okay, so we have along the bottom here, this is what faces Philadelphia Pike. So the concept was to provide buildings on Philadelphia Pike that actually almost mirror what the original design guidelines are. So the community had spent a lot of time on creating those design guidelines, and we were able to achieve what they wanted on those first 4 buildings. Let's go to the next picture, Gary. So this is a close-up. There were tower elements required. There's a tower element here, and there's a mirror of that building on the other side of Manor Avenue. First floor is retail. Second floor is apartments. There. There are two buildings that are east of the main entrance. These are the two buildings: first floor retail, second floor apartments. Okay. As we turn into Manor Avenue, this is the side view of the buildings with the tower elements. And as the councilman referred to, there was a lot of interest in screening the parking lot. So as you turn into Manor Avenue along all this parking back here is screened by a brick wall and a fence above it. Okay. So as we drive up Manor Avenue, we come to the end of these two buildings here, which are 4-story elevator-served interior hallway apartment buildings. And the facade you see would be called a primary facade. This is a primary facade, so there's a lot of brick and architecturally interesting finishes. And this is the front of the building. Now, the building articulates. It goes up and makes a 45-degree angle and turns again. And you can't show that in a flat two-dimensional picture, but this is the Manor Avenue face, and then this is the corner that turns, which is right here. So from the 4-story buildings, we turn around the park and we run into the 3-story buildings. And the reason there's different sizes of buildings is because originally there was a 6-story parking garage here, which provided the parking for what was supposed to be retail here. And this is the concept that the councilman is speaking about. It's very difficult for retailers to survive when their customers have to park here, drive up 3 or 4 stories, come down, and walk back to get their skirts and things. So it just wasn't a viable concept. And the reason we're down to 3-story apartments is because there's very little parking available in these areas. So it's a mathematical formula, basically. You see how much square footage you have on the ground, and then you have to have enough parking to support the apartments. So these are now 3-story apartments. That's the end of this building. Okay. And then this is the face that we face the park. And there were a lot of compromises. Our original design would have been something you'd see in a standard suburban sort of location. And because of the design guidelines and the desires of the community, we've really changed things from what we normally build. So each of these units actually has street access with a door that has a knob and opens and shuts, so people can park along Manor Avenue on either side and enter their units, the folks that are oriented this direction. So it's really something new for Delaware, new for Newcastle County, and a huge step up from everything else that we think has been built in Newcastle County. So we'll be proud of it. We hope they are too. We're done?
Or one more.
Okay. Oh, and then there's additional fencing that goes around any areas where there aren't buildings on these blocks, D and E1.
Councilman Cardiac.
Yes, if you could keep that plan up there using a laser pointer. I just want to talk about the pedestrian amenities that are available along the Philadelphia Pike. The commercial buildings will have 25-foot wide cafe-style sidewalks where we hope to accommodate a good deal of street life and outdoor seating that will make it, I think, a pretty vibrant place. And then when you proceed off of the Philadelphia Pike, you have Manor Avenue extended, and this completes a block. Manor Avenue was on the other side of Philadelphia Pike. By having Manor Avenue extended, we complete a block and we create an intersection. People can walk off of the commercial district back to their units and again take advantage of local retail amenities. And it encourages, with the access off the buildings into the center of the Manor Avenue and the parkland, it encourages people to go out on the street and enjoy walking and recreating in the community where they live. So we've done everything possible to ensure we maintain a pedestrian-friendly concept here with very, actually profoundly dense development and make it a viable, sustainable, vibrant community for the future.
Councilman Weiner.
Thank you. I'd like to take a few minutes to express my support for this project. I want to thank the Land Use Department for its leadership, for the panel organization for carrying forth a vision which the community has championed for 2 decades. Councilman Cartier's leadership in this project is very clear. I know he, like I, is dedicated to new urbanism, the smart growth plan, this pedestrian-friendly plan. And I started with this project in 1996 as the councilman of the district, handed it over to Councilman Cartier in 2002, and both the business and civic community are united in wanting not to replicate simply more suburbia, but to take advantage of the opportunities for transit, both train, bus, pedestrian, bicycle, and to create a new urbanist village. And as we learn in new urbanism, times change, and therefore the modification to remove the multi-level parking lot makes sense with the times, given the current economic vicissitudes. Having said that, I concur with the description by Mr. Nolan that this does emulate the original manual design guidelines, first designed by Thomas Committed Associates and then carried forth to its final stage by Tortigalis, working with our fine land use department. I'm pleased that this really provides an opportunity for people to live, shop, work, and play without being hostage to a single occupancy vehicle. And I'm hoping as time passes in the decades to come that we'll revisit this model, have an opportunity to add more commercial as we get the critical density of residential that would support that commercial and office. As we know, these things take a life of their own, and that's what these new urbanist villages do under the guidelines of the county, and that is to let the private sector meet the demands of the market without necessarily going through a World War III of rezoning. Thank you.
Council President.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo the comments of the other local councilmen. Know lots of people in the area were very interested in the continued development at the site, and we're very concerned because of the changes in the economic situation that would clearly not allow the original plans. And for somebody to step forward and make sure that we're going to be continuing to positively develop this area, very important to the people of the Claymont community. It's very warmly received. And I know Councilman Cartier's been on top of the Philadelphia Pike road work as well that's planned for that area, and that should really add to the street access and add to the pedestrian-friendly nature of that facility. And I just, I'm appreciative of the fact that this hasn't gone away. Obviously needed to change, but moving forward in a very positive manner. So I know all the residents in the area are very thankful for that.
Councilman Cartier.
One last remark. This phase of the project will begin to close in and develop along the Philadelphia Pike, which currently, just to give a perspective, Brookview, former Brookview site is close to 70 acres. For Brandywine 100, it's quite a lot of land. All of the old apartments were torn down, so residents have looked at, basically dirt fields now for quite some time. Now we're very excited that we're going to be able to, in partnership with this development group, come forward with a plan on the Philadelphia Pike to realize the commercial district with the apartment blocks behind, to provide a frontage along the prominent Philadelphia Pike artery for Darley Green, so that it becomes a real thing for folks and something that brings progress. We have currently development along Darley Road, but this side of the project really needs progress, and I'm really glad to have this opportunity to vote for this at our next meeting and make it go forward.
Thank you. I'd like to ask a couple questions. I know Councilman Cartier had his finger on the pulse here since it started this project, and it's been taken over. The other thing is, since it's been taken over, is there any change in the original design to what it was compared to now?
In terms of the types of units?
Yes.
There are a number of conceived types of units that are permitted under the original guidelines. And the first blocks that have been developed have approximately 100 units sold over the years. Essentially, they're townhouses, and there are some paths within those spaces for condo-type buildings. So it's pretty much kept to form, except there's one block, E2, on the screen in front of you. That, I believe, was an apartment block that was converted into townhouses. The number of apartment units goes down to 290 with this plan. Original design guidelines didn't have a fixed number of apartments, but had somewhere upwards of 400 plus permitted. But it ranged on the block. So we'll still have less apartments than originally permitted, and probably more townhouses.
With that, I know there's a couple council people here that feel the same way I do, and it's about safety, fire safety. You're having some buildings on Philadelphia Pike that are going to be retail on the bottom and apartments on top. What type of safety are you having for the people to live up top? If there's a fire or something down below, or there's some type of accident, how are the people upstairs going to be able to, if they're there, how are they going to be able to get out, and how's the safety going to be on them?
And this is something we have to deal with no matter whether it's in Claymont or any place in New Castle County or the second floor units are separate.